Pour yourself a cold one.
Let's drink 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of the College Draft.
Yeah, it is Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft podcast presented by YouTube. We got that awesome YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Please subscribe. You know I'm giving a cameo style shout out to a new subscriber every week, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years, classic journeyman. Got a bunch of different podcasts, had an awesome Ross Tucker football podcast, always posted by about 8 a.m. Eastern time on Mondays. It's about 30, 35 minutes, everything you need to know from the Sunday that was in the National Football League. So make sure you check out that show and you subscribe to it if you haven't already. Hopefully you're already subscribed to this show. We love those of you that spread the word via social media. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL, Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, facebook.com/Ross Tucker NFL. The channel, or at least the social media platforms that we use for the podcast network, at Ross Tucker Pod. Please make sure you're following us there, Twitter and Instagram. The star of this show, though, is Emory Hunt. He's at FBall Game Plan on Twitter. He's got the incredible YouTube channel called Football Game Plan. And last but certainly not least, you need to get the Football Game Plan draft guide. It's footballgameplan.com/2021 draft guide. And look, everybody has different preferences, what they want from a draft guide, how in-depth, whatever. For me, it's perfect. It's the information I need on every guy. Every guy. I don't need 10 pages on one guy. I need bullet points on every guy in case somebody asks me about him. That's what Emory does. Emory, good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's a fine morning here as we are now into week 3 of college football?
I guess, this is the first year where we really don't know how to count what week it is because, there was only 5 games 2 weeks ago. I think there was maybe 19 games on Saturday. And how about this upcoming weekend, Emory? Now, listen, this upcoming weekend, I was scheduled to call UVA at Virginia Tech for Westwood One. Really looking forward to it. Wow. Whatever they call it, Commonwealth Cup or whatever. Excited about the game. UVA, Virginia Tech. Let's do it. Saturday night. I think maybe game day was going to be there. Really, really fired up to call that game. Saturday morning, I'm at West Point getting ready to do Army and Louisiana Monroe. And I see a note on social media that Virginia Tech has postponed the game as a result of some positive COVID tests in their program. Okay, so I text my Westwood One boss, Emory, and I'm like, we should do Army BYU. So meanwhile, from my perspective, I've already done a couple Army games, so I know them very well, but also they're good. They're undefeated. BYU looked great against Navy. They both have national fan bases. Let's go. So I do the Army ULM game, hop in the car, drive home. Right before I get home, I get a text message. Army BYU has been postponed. So and I think Westwood One was probably going to do it, Emory. The 2 games I was going to have a chance to call probably this weekend, both get postponed. It's not good, Emory. And the Big Ten's having this whole vote. We can get into all that stuff, right? But what I think one of the major takeaways is it's pretty clear that it's hard to pull this off on the college level. It's college football is having a rough go of it, and I understand why the Big Ten and the Pac-12 made the decisions that they did. Now, the Big Ten might change their mind, and they're seeing other schools play, and they're like, "Oh, if they can play, we can play." But man, it's a rough. It's for me to have 2 games, Emory, and they both get postponed. It's tough sledding.
Very tough sledding, and I'm glad you brought that up about trying to pull this off. You can't pull it off without a bubble, and in order to have a bubble, you have to have the constant amount of testing that needs to happen, which means you have to have a lot of money, and only pro sports are able to do that, which is why it's always going to be tough for college and even tougher for high school. You know, it's more than just temperature checks where a lot of people are doing as far as these testing concerns are going. You have to find ways to test consistently if you want to have this thing pull off. I was actually supposed to be at the BYU Army game as well. Now, I put in credentials for that game to go scout, you know, some BYU talent and some Army talent. So I was looking forward to that as well. But again, when I got the email or the text from the tweet, it was like, wow, they really postponed this game. And then I was like, well, you know, at least you still have BYU Army. And then to see that one get postponed, it made me think of, well, what happened in Maryland? You know, BYU just played Navy. And what was the issue there? Like, did something pop up there and the travel back from Maryland to Utah? And because Army has been stationed in West Point since, you know, the start of the season. So what has happened from the time they played Navy to the time they got back to Provo? It's really concerning when you think about the other schools that are out there playing. You look at Georgia Southern, Georgia Southern and Campbell, when they listed who was out for the game, I mean, Georgia Southern it was in alphabetical order. I felt as though it was the entire roster, and they were still able to pull off the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how far this college football season goes, because we're going to see a lot of these issues tend to pop up throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Now, as of now, Monday morning, 8:35 a.m. Eastern time, we are scheduled to have some games. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the big games. I guess one of the biggest games that we've got coming up will be Miami and Louisville. And so more than anything else, Emory, I wanted to get your thoughts on the quarterbacks for each of these teams. You know, both of them, that people say the ACC has the best quarterbacks in the country. And certainly, you know, both these guys have done some really good things in their career. Why don't you start with D'Eriq King from the U?
Yeah, and that was one guy that I was looking forward to watching this year because you want to see growth in his game. You want to see a guy that progresses from being a little bit more judicious as a runner and protecting himself, protecting his body, but you also want to see growth in the passing game. You look at his game last year against Oklahoma when he was at Houston, and you saw a little bit of the dual threat capability. He was able to escape and extend some plays. The passing was a little bit erratic in that matchup. Now you fast forward to last week against UAB. He looked a little bit calmer in the pocket, ran when he had to. He had a key run on a third down where he picked up about 25 yards, and he just made his way through the defense of UAB. You saw him run more in the red zone, but it was a passing that started to it started to flatline toward the middle to the end of the game, and that's what you want to see. So this is a bigger test for him against a Louisville team that really did a good job against Western Kentucky. I know a lot of people thought Western Kentucky had a chance in that game, but Louisville came out defensively and impressed me because that was a defense last year that kind of gave up a lot of big plays in the passing game. So D'Eriq King against a secondary that's improved, a defense that can apply pressure, how will he be able to handle that pressure is going to be huge.
You know, I want to get your thoughts on this because I just talked about this on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. I might even write about it in my column for The Athletic soon. One of my big takeaways from week one in the NFL, Emory, sub 6 foot quarterbacks, man. I mean, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray, they can't even touch the guy. It's unbelievable. And he throws a great ball. He's got an arm. Russell Wilson was unbelievable. So I guess the question is, do you think D'Eriq King, who obviously can really run, do you think there's any chance that, you know, we're giving these sub 6 foot quarterbacks more opportunities and they're earning them and they deserve them and they're two of the best quarterbacks in the league? Do you think D'Eriq King can be one of those guys?
I think he can be. And this is something that I've always said is one of my core philosophies as far as football is concerned. If on tape you're able to do it, then you're able to do it. You know, we asked this question about, well, can this running back run in between the tackles if he's, you know, not 6 feet, 220 pounds? Well, he's done it on tape and he has consistently done it. That's all he knows how to do is play at his height and his weight. So for D'Eriq King, he's been playing quarterback at 5'10" his entire life. He knows how to play quarterback at 5'10" at a Power 5 level And so he should be able to do that at the next level. You see the same thing at Louisiana with Levi Lewis, another guy that's 5'10". He's a left-hander, so he has two things going against him: height and being left-handed. And so he's been able to thrive as a 5'10" left-handed quarterback his entire life, and we saw them pull off a tremendous upset against Iowa State. So if you can do it, you can do it. And to me, size is not a skill. If you're good enough, you're big enough. And right now, both guys are good enough to play quarterback at the next level. So all guys wanted at that position, when you talk about shorter guys or guys that are more athletic, all they ever wanted was an opportunity to fail. Let me fail first before you say, hey, try another position. If you don't give me the opportunity to fail, you're not even giving me the opportunity to succeed. And so you're taking an opportunity away from me without even seeing me play. So I'm glad that we're now in the era of, quarterbacks with no borders, put it that way, where you have guys that can be 6'7" and a guy that could be 5'10". As long as you can make plays, play great situational football, help keep your team ahead of the chains, you could play the position at the NFL level.
By the way, you want to take a bow for the Sun Belt over the weekend? The conference you played in, Emory?
Listen, put the Sun Belt in the Power 5 right now. You had my Louisiana Raging Cajuns, you had Arkansas State going up to Little Manhattan and giving Kansas State the business. You had Coastal Carolina going also to Kansas. So the Sun Belt Conference owns Kansas right now because they went out there and dominated the Kansas Jayhawks. So right now, if you're looking at the top teams in the nation of all of football, you got the Ravens, you got Louisiana, Arkansas State, and whoever else you want to put after that.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, what about the other quarterback in that Miami-Louisville matchup, Michael Cunningham?
Here's the thing about him. Last year, you saw him the light came on. He was a much more efficient passer down the back half of the season. And you saw him earlier in the year be more of an athlete than a passer. So he was doing the Lamar Jackson thing when Lamar first started to play, just taking off and running. But when you look at what he did toward the back end of the season, he started to be a little bit more, efficient as a passer. His accuracy was impressive. Throwing the deep ball was tremendous. I mean, it makes it easier when you have a Tutu Atwell at wide receiver that you're able just to loft the ball up to, and he's going to be able to run underneath it. But he was a deadly accurate passer deep down the field. Last week, and it's funny, I talked about him all summer. It's like, keep an eye on Mikael Cunningham. This is the guy that you want to keep an eye on. He made improvements last year. He has a chance to make a significant jump this season. And we saw last week against Western Kentucky, he had the most quietest 300-plus yard passing day, 4 touchdown passes, lit it up, and was just doing the same things he did last year. And he's another one. He's 6'1", about 200 pounds. You wonder if the lack of off-season kind of limited him from bulking up a little bit. But we know weight is something that you can easily continue to add, except if you're James Blackman. He seems to be, he seems to be the only guy that can't gain weight. He's been at Florida State for 10 years. But when you look at Mikael Cunningham, you see a guy that is going to thicken out a little bit, but he has the athleticism. I'm talking about explosive athleticism as a runner, but he's a much more efficient passer than people are giving him credit for. I'm excited to see this matchup because Miami's defense with Quincy Roche coming off the edge can apply pressure. So it's a great matchup, and that's why we focus mostly on the quarterbacks, because we know about the other pieces around them. We talked about that in our preview, but those guys will have to rise to the occasion and also showcase why, give us that opportunity to continue to play this position at the next level.
Let's get to another game on Saturday, Oklahoma State, Tulsa. We've talked about some of these Oklahoma State players before in our Big 12 preview, but specifically, what are you looking to see from wide receiver Tylan Wallace against Tulsa?
You want to see a lot of what his pedigree suggests. So if you're a big play wide receiver, you want to see the big play. You want to see the wow play that makes you say, hey, okay, this is a first round talent at wide receiver. And you want to see how much he has returned from the knee injury. And that's going to be key. And, he's a physical specimen. We talked about this before. He's only 6'1", about 190 pounds, but you watch him play, you feel as though he's built like Larry Fitzgerald. He looks like a guy that's 6'3", 215, but that's just how physical he plays. We know he's a speedster. I just want to see how healthy he is going into the season, because that's a big question for him coming off what happened last year. And Wallace, to me, is one of those game changing type receivers, a guy that could take a short pass a long way. He could win above the rim, so he can do all of the things that you're asking a top receiver prospect to do. I just want to see it against a team, but in-state rival in Tulsa.
What about the running back, Chuba Hubbard? I know he wasn't your top-rated running back, and we talked about why. I want you to refresh the listener's memory into what are some of the things you want to see him improve on.
I want to see the patience. I want to see the patience and the natural vision start to take place. A lot of times, guys, and this is not no fault of their own. It's just the era of football that they're playing in. Like over the weekend, I watched some Marcus Allen USC highlights and Marcus Allen early Raider highlights, and I was just I'm a kid at heart. I remember those Raider days, growing up, just being fascinated by Marcus Allen, how just guys just ran the football. It was like one cut and go downhill and just, make moves on the fly and just no wasting movements, no time waste. You have to really learn how to read blocks and all of those things. And there was a lot of toss, crack sweeps and all kind of stuff like that. And you look at what the game has transitioned to now, it's a lot of zone read with wide open lanes, and guys with, track speed are able to hit it full speed and go. And that's how I feel about Chuba Hubbard. I feel like, he's a guy that if it's there, he's going to hit it. But if it's clogged up, can he create? And, you want to see guys be able to create. So I'm hoping that Tulsa's defensive line and front seven can really make things cloudy at the line of scrimmage and force him to, okay, let me figure out a way to have success, maybe cut back against the grain, have to make a pre-line of scrimmage move and be successful. So I want to see the little nuances of playing the position from Hubbard, because I know he has the speed. I know he has the ability to, hit the home run, but you want to see him be able to do the little things that is going to be required of him at the NFL level if he wants to be a premier starting down tailback.
What about, and both those guys, Wallace and Hubbard, need the O-line to play well. Talk to me about Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Senior Bowl watch list guy, dominant at the point of attack. And again, you want to see how well he does handling stunts and pressures that's going to come from Tulsa. Tulsa does a good job, to be honest, over the course of the last 3 to 4 years of applying pressure. For whatever reason, they do a great job with their blitz package and how they stunt things up front. So I want to see how he handles that. I know he's a big body guy. I know he does a good job as far as like locking that outside door, like, opening that gate and allowing Hubbard to run through. And I've always said this, if you're able to run weak side, that's a testament to how good of a lineman you are as a left tackle, because normally teams are right-handed when they run, but a lot of your big runs coming from the left side speaks volumes of what you do in the run blocking department. I just want to see how well he's able to handle that pressure that he's going to see from Tulsa.
On the other side, Tulsa's got a pretty good running back themselves in Shamari Brooks.
He has some outstanding post line of scrimmage vision. When he gets through the lane and is able to do a great job of making that secondary move, I think that's where he's outstanding. He has very good vision and agility and footwork. He's got the burst to really pick up chunk plays. So I think he's a guy that can really showcase in this ball game against a very solid Oklahoma State defense. At times he does get a little bit too cute and too patient at the pre-line of scrimmage, Le'Veon Bell like, but everyone is not Le'Veon Bell. And if you're going to play that patient role, that's fine against a lesser opponent. But, if you want to be a really strong NFL back, you have to be able to be a little bit more decisive, because guys close quicker at the NFL level. So you can't be dancing and trying to, make it look cute behind the line of scrimmage. But that's the only knock I really see about him. Obviously, pass pro stuff is where he's going to have to work. That's every running back. But as far as his natural running ability, I love his post line of scrimmage vision. I love the burst. I love the quickness. He can make a guy miss. He's making moves while going downhill. So he's not standing in one spot trying to make a guy miss, spending too much time dancing. So he's being very productive with his moves. I think he can give Tulsa a chance in this game if they're able to run the football.
I like it. Tulsa a chance in the game. I also like what DraftKings has going on right now, Emory. This is crazy. So whether it's NFL or college football, right now, DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app, If you bet $1 on any team, if that team wins, they'll give you $100. So think about it. It's like 100 to 1 odds. You put $1 down on whichever NFL, college, whatever, you win $100. I mean, they got a lot of offers these first few weeks that you really need to take advantage of, or have your wife or your buddy or someone take advantage of if you already did. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Ross when you sign up to get this can't-miss offer. Pick any team during NFL Week 2. Bet $1 on them and win $100 if they win. That's $1 to win $100 when you use promo code Ross during sign up. Limited time only. DraftKings Sportsbook must be 21 or older. New Jersey, PA only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's get to a couple of games that aren't as well known, but still, you know the guys. App State and Marshall. So you've got Sunbelt versus Conference USA. Sunbelt always has a bunch of guys. App State. I guess I want you to start with their quarterback, Zach Taylor.
He's a guy that has a ton of experience. He's probably a shrine game or NFLPA type guy because you like the leadership capabilities, but the physical tools are where he's going to have to improve. Now he does a good job on both ends of offense, meaning that he can run a little bit, so he can pick up those cheap first downs if you need him to. And in the passing game, he does a good job working the intermediate area of the field. So I like Zach Taylor. He's a reason why they have a lot of success on offense. He keeps that offense going. And we've seen so far, if you have experience at the quarterback position in this season of college football, you're going to be fine. And he's been as good as advertised since he's been the starting quarterback out there at App State.
They got a couple receivers that you noted. Corey Sutton, Jalen Virgil. Which one do you like more?
I like Sutton a little bit more. Both guys are these legitimate 6'2", 6'3" guys that can play above the rim. And App State doesn't waste any time attacking you vertically down the field. So these guys can not only stack and track the ball deep, they can also catch one of those intermediate routes and break a couple tackles and go a long way. So I think both guys, being those physical above the rim type guys, give them a shot, and both are on the Senior Bowl watch list.
Want to get your thoughts as well about Demetrius Taylor, the D lineman for App State.
I like him, man. It's funny. Every time you see Taylor, you see him with the ball in his hand, and you realize, like, wait, he plays defense. Like, that's the guy I want. I want the guy that plays defense, that always has the ball in his hands. He had a great game last year against North Carolina. He had a touchdown, he had a sack, he had a fumble. He just was always around the football. Those guys tend to always find their way on NFL rosters and be successful. And I think because he has the ability to rush the passer, he's a very good run defender and has a knack for making the play when it needs to be made. That's the guy on defense. If Marshall can't block him, it's going to be a problem for them all game long.
Let's get to Marshall then. And it's funny, I've seen some of these guys. I did their game last year against Cincinnati. They got smoked, but I'm familiar with some of these guys. Brendan Knox, Josh Ball, Tavante Beckett. Let's start with the running back, Brendan Knox. Feels like he's been there a while.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot. I said this 2 weeks ago when they played Eastern Kentucky. He reminded me a lot of Deuce Staley. You know how Staley had that quick, short, choppy, gait that was kind of making his way through line of scrimmage. You never saw him, fall backwards. It was always moving forward. I like that about Brendan Knox. And, he's a guy, he's only a junior, but one that dealing with how all those things go out, you could see him probably say, you know what, I've done enough. I'm out. But I do think he's a very solid running back. Just one guy that you can really hang your hat on and be that bell cow in the backfield. I love his quickness, both outside in space or in between the tackles, in the trash, as they like to say. I think he just has very good footwork and vision. The combination of the two, it makes him a very top running back, in my opinion.
Out of the other guys, Josh Ball, linebacker, Tavante Beckett, who jumps out to you the most?
Beckett is one that's interesting because if you think on the other side, last year, Akeem Davis-Gaither, he was a linebacker at 6'1", 215. He just made a couple of plays yesterday for the Bengals on defense. He was a second-round, third-round pick, I believe. Beckett is of the same caliber. He's a smaller guy. People probably look at him and think he's a strong safety, but he plays linebacker, and he's one of those guys that is always looking to hit. Those are the type of backers I like, not these peekaboo linebackers or these wait-and-see linebackers, guys that look to hit. I want that guy on my defense as well, and he has the speed to really knife through zone blocking and make a play in the backfield. So you want those guys that can get from point A to point B, and also that attacks the football really well going downhill.
So, Emory, I got a couple of things for you before I forget. Travion Webster for ULM, that dude was flying around and lighting people up on Saturday. So check him out if you haven't already. And I didn't think of this until Saturday. Army's got a legit NFL prospect, I believe, in their fullback, Sandon McCoy. He had a big year last year. He's an excellent blocker. He's a good athlete, when he gets the ball out in space. I wonder how many NFL teams, as they're more and more using fullbacks, they need to keep him in mind because he's a vicious blocker. Like, I think he's a guy that they would actually – I'm going to start telling NFL teams about him. I saw Army – VMI last year, and Sandon McCoy had a big game then, and Alex Ramsey, the running back for the Citadel now. So he transferred from VMI to the Citadel. Citadel plays Clemson. I think, are VMI and Citadel in the same conference?
Yeah, and that's what blew my mind because I was all in on VMI this year because they have the quarterback that's a pro prospect. They have Ramsey, the offensive receiver. The wide receiver was out there. Defensively, they got better. I was like, VMI could challenge in the SoCon this year. And so, yeah, Ramsey transferred from VMI to the Citadel, grad transfer, so he was able to play right away. And Ramsey is a really good running back, man. He's one of those guys that has the footwork and the elusiveness and the athleticism. So I think he has a chance to make it to the next level. I'm excited to see how he does against his defense, as well as the linebacker, Eubanks. Eubanks, I feel like, has been there forever. And you just hope that at some point in time, he's going to graduate, but he's done a great job. I feel like he's an aggressive backer. I think he's your ideal. He can play Sam or the weak side. He's a run and chase guy, but he also is very stout at the point of attack.
We could go over your top guys for Army and BYU or your top guys for Virginia and Virginia Tech, but I guess we'll save them for another week. What a bummer, man, that those games. I mean, I was really looking forward to both those games. They're already off the board. We'll see how many games are able to be played this upcoming week. Keep your fingers crossed, everybody. We gave you some of the big ones. Pitt plays Syracuse. BC plays Duke. So hopefully those games go off as well. Most importantly, it's very, very important that you go to Emory's website, footballgameplan.com/2021 draft guide. It's awesome. Subscribe to his YouTube channel like you subscribe to mine, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Other than that, man, stay safe. If you're a college football fan, if you're a college football player, please do the right thing so we can have a lot of games. We want to watch you guys play. Other than that, the keg is kicked. We're all tapped out.
Thanks for listening to the College Draft Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, Even Money, and The Business of Sports. All availavailable at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.